With elections fast approaching in Hungary, Prime Minister Viktor Orbán and his Fidesz party face their toughest challenge in over a decade. The opposition is now firmly ahead in the polls, driven by mounting frustration over corruption at the top, democratic backsliding, and, most importantly, Orbán's mismanagement of the economy, which has left ordinary Hungarians grappling with a deepening cost of living crisis. So in this video, we're going to see what's gone wrong for the Hungarian economy, and whether Orbán has any hope of fixing it before it's too late. Never miss an episode and always feel in the loop by subscribing and ringing the bell. Let's get straight into it. In the last few years, the fundamental issue with Hungary's economy has been that the government is borrowing unsustainable amounts of money, with much of it going to propping up Orbán's political base. According to Hungary's former central bank governor, the government has spent more than 10% of GDP in recent years, that's twice the OECD average, with billions funneled into regime-friendly businesses and handouts to key voter groups like families and pensioners. For instance, only a quarter of the €12 billion from the EU's COVID recovery fund was actually spent on pandemic-related issues. The rest of the money was spent on other items, including support for ethnic Hungarian diaspora living in Hungary's neighbouring countries, who backed Orbán in previous elections. In fact, just before the 2022 general election, Orbán handed out extra payments for pensioners, scrapped income tax for younger people, and offered grants to families to renovate their homes, measures worth about 1% of GDP combined. His government also extended a generous family benefit regime. That was Orbán's most popular policy among undecided voters, according to a 2020 survey, that now costs nearly 5% of GDP per year. But this spending spree hasn't really worked in improving the cost of living for ordinary Hungarians, in large part because it's been accompanied by steep inflation. In 2022 and 2023, Hungary faced a severe inflationary shock, with year-on-year inflation peaking at 25%. This forced Hungary's central bank to hike interest rates to a 20-year high, which have now been held at 6.5% since last September, the joint highest in the EU along with Romania. This triggered a deep contraction in real wages, where growth has been appallingly weak, and Hungary's household consumption, adjusted for purchasing power parity, was only 78% of the EU average in 2024, which places Hungarians at the bottom of the EU, with the lowest purchasing power among all member states. To placate voters, rather than investing in the country's crumbling infrastructure, Orbán continued to run huge budget deficits by funding giveaways to key voter groups. This spending, combined with the fact that the EU has frozen billions of euros in funding for Hungary over democratic backsliding and rule of law concerns, has meant that Hungary has continued to run pretty massive deficits. In 2023, Hungary ran one of the largest deficits in the EU, coming in at 6.7% of GDP, well above the EU's deficit target of 3%, and in 2024, the government had to raise its deficit target from 2.9% to 4.5% of GDP, only to then overshoot the revised target, running a massive deficit of 4.9% of GDP by the end of the year. This year, Budapest has again revised its deficit target from 3.7% to 4.1% of GDP. And right now, it looks like once more, Budapest won't reach this target. The government has already racked up more than 2.9 trillion forints, or around $8 billion, in deficit in the first 4 months of the year, the worst on record for that period, largely because Hungary's debt servicing costs, i.e. the cost of paying off the interest on its pre-existing debt pile, have increased to about 5% of GDP, the highest in the EU. Things have been made worse by the fact that in recent years, economic growth has significantly stagnated, which means the state has little extra revenue coming in to improve its dire fiscal position. In 2024, the economy grew by only 0.5%, and in the first quarter of this year, it contracted by 0.4%. Then, in late July, Budapest sharply reduced its growth forecast for this year, from 3.4% to 1%. At the heart of the slowdown is a sharp decline in industrial output, which has been shrinking since 2023. For context, Hungary's economy is highly export-orientated, and its industrial base is dominated by automotive manufacturing. The country serves as a major assembly hub for global car makers. However, Europe's weak economy, and especially Germany's struggling industry, on which Hungary deeply relies, has reduced demand for Hungarian exports. In fact, Eurostat data indicates that, more than any other issue, weak demand has been the biggest obstacle for Hungarian businesses since 2023. Industrial output in the first 6 months of this year dropped 3.9% year-on-year, and unless demand and production increase, Hungary's industry is on track for an unprecedented third consecutive year of decline, which has pushed business confidence levels to their lowest in almost 5 years. Orbán has been betting heavily on the battery industry to kickstart the economy and lead an industrial revival. More than 40 battery plants are either operating, under construction, or planned, backed by an estimated $4.5 billion in state incentives and tax breaks, worth roughly 2% of GDP. This has attracted billions in foreign investment, including from Chinese giants like CATL and BYD, and South Korea's Samsung SDI and SK On. But the payoff is years away. Most new factories won't ramp up production until 2026, and some, like BYD's new plant, will run below capacity for at least the first 2 years. That's largely because European electric vehicle demand has weakened, and this has already started to have an effect on Hungary's economy. Battery production plunged 51% year-on-year in December 2024, and Samsung SDI laid off hundreds of workers at its plant in the small city of Gurd and was forced to temporarily shut down the factory. Another challenge is growing local backlash over Hungary's weak environmental regulations, which have been loosened in recent years to fast-track megaprojects. In Debrecen, historically a middle-class Fidesz stronghold, residents are protesting the operation of China's $7.6 billion CATL lithium-ion battery plant, the largest foreign investment in Hungary's history, citing concerns over water usage and pollution. With less than a year until the election, Orbán is running out of time. The economy is stagnant, industrial decline continues, and the fiscal deficit is ballooning. So it's looking increasingly likely that Orbán won't be able to pull the economy out of its slump by then. Instead, Orbán has reverted to his old playbook: pre-election giveaways. In July, he announced new housing subsidies worth 1 million forints, that's about $2,870 for public workers, and last November struck a deal with trade unions to raise the minimum wage by 40% over 3 years. But with growth slowing and borrowing costs rising, these promises may prove impossible to keep. And Orbán has already hinted he may have to renege on the minimum wage deal, as the economy continues to underperform. It's safe to say that if you're invested in topics such as these, then you're also passionate about challenging yourself through online learning. While we're here to help you with that, our sponsor this week, Brilliant, are experts at pushing your learning to the next level. That's because Brilliant is an incredibly thorough learning platform designed to be uniquely effective in how you build skills every day. Their vast library of topics, from science to AI, all feature a perfect mix of engaging problems, competitive features, and daily encouragement that keeps you motivated and on track. Brilliant helps build your critical thinking skills through problem solving, not just memorizing. So while you're building real knowledge on specific topics, you'll also be becoming a better thinker. For example, if you're looking to build your mathematical intuition, Brilliant is the best place to go. Their newly updated maths courses focused on the most useful, applicable maths concepts, so you never feel like you're wasting your time. You'll start at the perfect level and work your way up through interactive challenges that bring abstract concepts to life. Whether you're at home or on the go, you can level up your maths skills wherever you are. To start your learning journey and try Brilliant for free, visit brilliant.org/TLDR, scan the QR code on screen, or you can click the link in the description. By doing so, you'll also get 20% off an annual premium subscription, and they'll know that you came from us, which really helps us out.